Stoicism, the art of inner governance. The Stoics taught that suffering arises not from events themselves, but from our judgments of them. To master your thoughts, you must separate what is within your control, your attitude, your actions, from what is not, everything else. Each time you're angry, reframe it as a failure of perception, not of fate. Thinking becomes a discipline, a soldier's calm in a chaotic world. Peace is not the absence of storms, but command over your own weather. Christianity, renewing the mind. Christianity teaches that the human mind is fallen, inclined toward pride, fear, and deception, and must be transformed through truth. The believer masters their thoughts not through willpower, but through surrender. Take every thought captive to Christ. This means submitting every anxious, lustful, or hateful impulse to divine correction. Thinking becomes worship, a renewing of mind that conforms to eternal truth rather than fleeting culture. The end goal is not control, but obedience that brings freedom. Buddhism, the practice of non-attachment. Buddhism holds that the mind is a restless monkey jumping from thought to thought, mistaking desire for identity. Mastery begins when you stop identifying with thoughts at all, when you observe them like clouds passing across a vast sky. Through mindfulness and meditation, thinking loses its grip. You realize that not every thought deserves belief. The more you let go, the less you suffer. Freedom isn't found in controlling the mind. It's found in no longer being enslaved by it. Existentialism, radical self-honesty. Existentialists argue that humans flee from thought because it reveals the abyss, the absurdity and freedom of existence. To master thinking, one must confront the truth without flinching. That meaning isn't given, it's made. Every belief, every choice becomes an act of authorship. The mind's power lies in responsibility. You are condemned to be free, but that means you can choose who you become. Mastery here is not calm, but courage. Taoism, aligning with the flow. Taoism doesn't fight thoughts. It flows with them like water around a rock. Overthinking, in Taoist thought, is the mind's rebellion against nature, a refusal to simply be. To master thinking is to stop struggling for mastery at all and instead return to stillness, simplicity, and balance. When the mind stops forcing, clarity appears. You do less and see more. Rationalism, order through logic. For rationalists, thought itself is the highest virtue. Emotion and impulse must bow to reason. Mastery means structuring thought as one would build a cathedral, clear premises, sound arguments, no contradictions. Every assumption must be tested under the light of logic. The danger is arrogance, mistaking reason for wisdom. But when properly disciplined, the rational mind becomes a fortress against chaos. Nihilism, mastery by acceptance of nothingness. Nihilism teaches that no thought carries inherent meaning, and thus no thought can truly control you. Once you accept that there is no grand structure holding your mind, you can stop fearing collapse. The mastery lies in detachment. When you stop needing your thoughts to mean something, you become untouchable. It's a bleak kind of peace, but it's peace nonetheless. Psychoanalysis, the excavation of the unconscious. Freud believed the conscious mind is merely the tip of the iceberg. The true driver of thought lies buried beneath, in the unconscious. To master your mind, you must first unearth it. Every slip of the tongue, dream, or irrational fear is a message from the parts of you you've repressed. Mastery comes not from silencing those voices, but listening to them, translating chaos into clarity. The mind is healed by being made known. Hinduism, seeing through the illusion, Maya. In Hindu philosophy, the mind is the grand deceiver, weaving illusion through attachment, ego, and desire. Mastery means awakening from the dream, realizing that the self who thinks is not the true self, Atman. Through meditation, devotion, and discipline, the seeker trains thought to dissolve into pure awareness. When the illusion falls away, peace is found not in changing thought, but in seeing through it. The mind becomes transparent, a window instead of a cage. Humanism, thinking as empathy. Humanism teaches that to master thought is to understand others, that the purpose of reason is not conquest, but connection. You sharpen your mind not to dominate, but to communicate, to imagine what it's like to be someone else. Every assumption you challenge brings you closer to compassion. Mastery of thought here means mastery of perspective, seeing the world not as it is to you, but as it might feel to another. The intellect becomes a bridge, not a weapon. Cybernetics, thought as system. Cybernetics views the mind as a feedback loop. Perception informs thought, thought informs action, action reshapes perception. Mastery comes through calibration, constant adjustment to reduce error between intention and outcome. Thinking becomes engineering. You debug yourself. The philosophical implication is radical. You're not a static self, but a self-regulating process. To master thought is to program your own evolution. Pragmatism, the test of truth, is usefulness. Pragmatism rejects abstract theorizing and says, a thought is only as good as its results. Mastery means judging ideas not by beauty or tradition, but by outcome. If it works, if it brings peace, progress, or understanding, it's true enough. This frees you from overthinking, from the paralysis of seeking perfect logic. Thinking becomes a tool, not a torment, a means to live, not just to analyze. Jungian individuation, the mind as myth. Carl Jung saw mastery not as control, but as wholeness. Every thought, no matter how dark or absurd, is a fragment of the self calling for recognition. The task is not to silence the unconscious, but to dialogue with it. Dreams, archetypes, and symbols reveal the deeper architecture of the psyche. To master your mind, you must let it speak in its own language of story and symbol until shadow and self become one voice. Mindfulness, attention, without ownership. Mindfulness, stripped of its Buddhist origins, became psychology's secular prayer. It teaches that thoughts are not commands but clouds, temporary, shifting, and powerless unless obeyed. Mastery arises when attention is anchored in the present moment without judgment. The paradox? The more you try to control your thoughts, the less control you have. The secret is observation, not opposition. Stoic Christianity, serenity as obedience. A fusion of Stoic discipline and Christian humility, this worldview frames mastery as moral submission to divine order. You control only your response. Everything else belongs to providence. The Stoic trains thought through reason. The Christian tempers it with faith. Together, they forge a calm that neither pride nor pain can disturb, an interior fortress built on trust in God's sovereignty. Quantum mysticism, the mind as universe. Here, thought is not confined to the skull, it's woven into reality itself. Quantum mystics claim consciousness influences the fabric of existence, collapsing possibilities into outcomes. Whether metaphor or metaphysics, it invites a radical responsibility. Every thought might matter cosmically. The danger is delusion, the promise, awakening. To think is to create, so think carefully. The flow state, selflessness in motion. Modern neuroscience discovered what mystics always knew, that the highest mind emerges when the self disappears. In flow, thought and action merge, time dissolves, and consciousness sharpens into perfect presence. It's a secular transcendence, the divine found in mastery itself. Every surfer, coder, and musician who's lost themselves in motion knows the best thinking happens when thinking stops. Psychedelic philosophy, dissolving the observer. From Aldous Huxley to contemporary psychonauts, this worldview treats the mind not as a machine to control, but as a veil to lift. Under altered states, the borders of the self blur. Thought expands beyond personal identity. The lesson isn't in hallucination, but humility, realizing how little of reality the normal mind perceives. True mastery might mean accepting that the mind is only a window, not the view. Existential humanism, meaning as construction. Here, mastery means authorship. Thought isn't a mirror of truth, but a tool for creation. There is no given purpose, only the meanings you carve from the void. Existential humanists don't escape anxiety, they transform it into fuel. The mind becomes a craftsman of coherence in an indifferent universe. To master it is to take responsibility for the story you tell yourself about living. Zen Buddhism, the thought that thinks itself. Zen doesn't want you to master your thoughts. It wants you to see through them. Thought in Zen is like a breeze stirring the surface of a pond, temporary, meaningless, until you mistake it for the pond itself. Through meditation, koans, and silence, the mind learns to rest in direct experience, not in interpretation. Mastery isn't control, it's clarity. To think and yet not be trapped by thinking, that is freedom. Gnosticism, knowing what cannot be known. For the Gnostics, the mind is a prisoner, chained to illusions by a counterfeit world. Thought mastery means piercing the facade, remembering your divine origin beneath the dust. Every thought you conquer brings you closer to gnosis, a wordless knowing of truth beyond logic. The danger is pride, the illusion that knowledge alone can save. True mastery, they said, is to know the limits of knowing. Hermeticism, as above, so below. Hermetic thought trains the mind to see the universe as mirrored within itself, the microcosm and macrocosm in constant reflection. To master thinking here means aligning inner order with cosmic order. Meditation, symbolism, and sacred geometry weren't superstition. They were exercises in harmonizing mind and matter. When the mind learns to think in correspondences, life itself becomes a divine equation. Orthodox Christianity, the war for the nous. In Orthodox thought, the human mind, the nous, isn't merely intellect, it's the eye of the soul. The true battle of thinking isn't against error, but against passion, the ego's constant noise that distorts perception. Mastery here comes through hesychia, stillness, prayer, repentance, the purifying of the mind, until it reflects divine light. The goal isn't self-transcendence, but deification, the mind reunited with its creator. Roman Catholicism, ordered reason and the illumination of faith. Catholic thought seeks harmony, not dominance, between reason and revelation. Thought mastery comes through disciplined reflection, the intellect purified by moral order and grace. From Aquinas to Augustine, the mind is seen as a cathedral, logic and love forming its architecture. When reason kneels before faith, it doesn't diminish, it's completed. True mastery is humble intellect illuminated by divine truth. Sufism, the heart as mind. In Sufism, thought without love is lifeless, mere machinery. The mind's mastery is achieved through remembrance, dhikr, where the name of God dissolves intrusive thoughts into devotion. The self melts into unity. The chatter of the world quiets. To think rightly is to think with the heart, to let knowledge burn until it becomes compassion. Taoism, the wisdom of unthinking. Taoism sees overthinking as the greatest disorder. The wise do not force their minds to think, they let them flow like water. Mastery here means not mastering at all, but attuning. Thought moves only when life requires it, resting when it doesn't. The Taoist sage has the same thoughts as the fool, but no attachment to them. His wisdom lies in the effortless rhythm of unresisting awareness. Existentialism, the courage to think. Anyway, existential psychology begins with one truth. There is no ultimate meaning, only the meanings we create. To master your thinking, you must face the void, the terrifying freedom of inventing your own purpose. Thoughts of dread, death, and absurdity aren't enemies. They're mirrors reflecting how badly you want life to matter. Mastery means not silencing those thoughts, but holding them steady and building something real in their shadow. When you stop running from meaninglessness, your mind stops running from itself. Transhumanism, reprogramming the self. Transhumanism treats human thought as a prototype, a version 1.0 waiting for its upgrade. If the brain is just code, then philosophy becomes engineering, a project of improving memory, mood, and morality through technology. But the danger is hubris. In editing the mind, we might erase what made us human. Mastery here means restraint, to augment without abandoning. The final frontier of thought may not be in silicon, but in self-control. Absurdism, the liberation of futility. Camus's absurdism argues that life's meaninglessness isn't a curse, but a freedom. Once you realize the universe owes you no answers, you're released from needing them. The mastery of thought here lies in defiance, in living fully even when logic collapses. You think, therefore, you rebel. To accept the absurd is to accept your mind's limits and still keep creating, laughing, and loving in spite of it. Cognitive Behavioral Theory, CBT, editing the narrative. CBT views your thoughts as hypotheses, not facts, and your job is to test them. Every "I can't," "I'm not enough," or "they must hate me" is just bad data. Mastery of thought here is a scientific act. You catch distortions, rewrite them, and reality begins to change. You don't control what you feel, but you can control how long you feed it. This is philosophy retooled for daily survival. Simulationism, the doubt that frees you. Simulationism asks, if all reality could be simulated, what makes it real? It sounds paranoid, but it's an ancient philosophical trap dressed in digital clothes. The mastery of thought here isn't in knowing what's real, but in choosing how to live as if it were. Once you realize that perception is your only constant, life becomes theater, and you, its lucid dreamer. The world's unreality becomes your greatest canvas. Aztec philosophy, the discipline of the heart. To the Aztecs, wisdom was not intellectual, it was heart balance. They believed every person had two souls, one emotional, one rational. Mastering your mind meant uniting them through ritual, humility, and courage. They saw life as sacred tension. Your thoughts are the battlefield where balance is won or lost. Celtic Druidry, silence as sacred power. For the ancient Celtic Druids, wisdom grew in silence. They trained thought like an instrument, believing speech could reshape worlds. By speaking less and observing more, one gained mastery over the storms of emotion. In their forests, philosophy wasn't taught. it was absorbed. The Dogon of Mali philosophy. Thought as cosmic vibration. The Dogon people believed the universe began with a single sound, and that thought itself was an echo of it. To think clearly was to tune your consciousness to the frequency of creation. Their teachings imply that the mind's power is acoustic. Every thought you release reshapes reality. Egyptian philosophy, the weighing of the heart. Ancient Egyptian philosophy viewed thought as substance. After death, your heart, filled with memories and motives, was weighed against a feather. A pure mind was light, a guilty one heavy. To master thought was not to suppress desire, but to purify intention. Thinking rightly was how one entered eternity. The Epictetus' school, freedom within chains. Epictetus, once enslaved, redefined mastery of mind as freedom of will. He taught that no one can imprison a person who controls his judgment. His school in Nicopolis showed that wisdom isn't found in privilege, it's found in choosing reason over reaction. Every restraint is a mirror revealing who owns your mind. The mystery schools of Eleusis, thought as initiation. For initiates of the Greek Eleusinian mysteries, enlightenment came through symbolic death and rebirth. Thought had to die before it could perceive truth. In confronting mortality, initiates transcended fear, proving mastery begins when the mind stops running from the unknown. Navajo cosmology, thought as weaving. In Navajo cosmology, the world is a web, and thoughts are the threads. They believed harmony, Hojhu, came from aligning the inner world with the outer one. Mastering your mind was like weaving. Your thoughts must interlace gently with reality, or the pattern of your life unravels. Mayan cosmology, time as consciousness. To the Mayans, time was not linear, but alive. Each moment had personality, meaning, and power. To think clearly was to think in rhythm with cosmic cycles. Mental health meant living in time, not against it, seeing every thought as part of the great calendar of being. Kabbalism, mapping the infinite mind. Jewish mystics of the Kabbalah saw thought as a ladder between the material and divine. Each thought could elevate or corrupt the soul's ascent. Through contemplation and moral discipline, the mind could reflect the structure of creation itself. 10 divine emanations refracted through consciousness. Norse philosophy, thought as fate. The Vikings believed every decision tied into weird, the web of destiny. Even the gods were bound by it. Mastery came through acceptance, living with boldness while knowing every action echoes through time. Thought was the loom of fate, and courage was clarity. Ubuntu, the mind of the Zulu. The Zulu philosophy of Ubuntu teaches that the self only exists in relation to others. I am because we are. A disciplined mind doesn't isolate, it integrates. Mastering thought here means mastering compassion, recognizing that to heal the self, you must heal the tribe. Cynicism, freedom through disdain. The cynics believed that most suffering comes from caring about the wrong things. Society trains you to crave approval, wealth, and order. The cynic rejects all of it. To master thought, you must strip life down to what's real and live with radical honesty. Their lesson: think less about how you appear and more about what you are when no one's watching. Epicureanism, the science of calm pleasure. Epicurus taught that the highest good isn't indulgence, but tranquility. True pleasure comes from mastering desire, knowing which cravings to silence. By training the mind to distinguish between what feels good and what keeps you good, you replace chaos with quiet. Mastery begins when you stop chasing intensity and start pursuing peace. Zoroastrianism, thought as moral fire. One of humanity's oldest religions, Zoroastrianism, teaches that good and evil begin in the mind. Every thought feeds either the light or the darkness. Mastery comes through disciplined awareness, choosing the flame of truth over the smoke of lies. Your thoughts are sacred acts of creation. Neoplatonism, ascent through the intellect. Plotinus taught that all existence flows from a single, perfect source, the One. The philosopher's task is to purify the mind of distraction so it can return to that unity. Every deep thought becomes a step homeward. Mastery is the quiet remembrance that the soul once knew peace and still can. Stoic fatalism, control what you can, accept what you can't. Unlike passive resignation, Stoic mastery means radical focus. You train thought to separate what's within your control from what isn't. By aligning judgment with reality, anxiety fades. The Stoic conquers chaos not by fighting it, but by agreeing with it. Shintoism, purity of mind, as sacredness. In Japan's ancient spiritual philosophy, cleanliness of the body reflects clarity of thought. To be pure is not to be perfect, but to live in reverence toward the natural and unseen world. Every thought should harmonize with gratitude. Mastering your mind here means living in quiet awe, where attention itself becomes prayer. Samkhya, knowledge as liberation. This pre-Buddhist Indian philosophy teaches that ignorance chains the soul to suffering. The mind misidentifies itself with what it sees: body, emotion, ego. Freedom comes when thought realizes it's not the storm, but the sky above it. Awareness separates from illusion, and mastery follows understanding. Orphism, purification through music and myth. The Orphics saw life as a cycle of rebirth, where the soul refines itself through harmony. They believed sound could purify the mind, that truth is felt before it's understood. To master thought, one must live rhythmically, keeping balance between passion and peace. Pythagoreanism, order as spiritual law. Pythagoras saw the universe as built on number and proportion. Even the soul followed mathematical harmony. The disciplined mind, trained to think precisely, aligns with the cosmos. To master your thoughts, treat them like music. Dissonance becomes divine when brought into rhythm. New thought, reality, obeys. Belief. Born in 19th century America, New Thought teaches that your mental attitude shapes your material world. Every thought is a seed, every emotion a creative force. To master your thinking, practice mental hygiene. Guard against fear as you would against disease. Philosophically, it's a fusion of optimism and metaphysics. Reality is plastic under the pressure of faith. Techno-Gaianism, harmony. Through the machine, Techno-Gaianism believes that technology and nature aren't enemies but extensions of one another. Your mind should evolve in sync with both, meditating with data, not against it. To master your thinking, balance logic and awe. Let technology serve life, not replace it. Philosophically, it's the cyber age's eco-spirituality, salvation through sustainable innovation. Mormonism, divine potential through discipline. Mormon philosophy views humans as embryonic gods, progressing toward perfection through righteous choices. Your thoughts, therefore, are training for eternal responsibility. To master your mind, align intention with divine order. Self-control becomes a rehearsal for celestial creation. Philosophically, it's a structured optimism, freedom bounded by purpose, growth bound to obedience. Luciferianism, enlightenment through rebellion. Luciferianism reinterprets the fallen angel as a symbol of knowledge, individuality, and illumination. To master your mind, question every authority, even your own fears. This path sees disobedience as sacred when it leads to truth over blind faith. Philosophically, it's the fire of self-sovereignty, illumination through defiance, wisdom through the shadow. Rastafarianism, liberation through livity. Rastafarianism teaches livity, living in harmony with the divine spirit present in all things. To master your thoughts, slow down, detox from Babylon, the corrupt system, and align with natural rhythm. Meditation, music, and community become mental purifiers. Philosophically, it's resistance through serenity. The revolution begins in the mind's peace. Hedonism, mastery through joy. Hedonism claims pleasure is the only intrinsic good, but its deeper form teaches intelligent indulgence. To master your thoughts, learn which pleasures build life instead of draining it. The highest pleasure is sustainable, mental peace, not excess. Philosophically, it's rebellion against guilt, joy as moral compass. Objectivism, reality is not negotiable. Ayn Rand's objectivism grounds mastery in logic and self-interest. Your thoughts must align with observable reality, not feelings or faith. To master your mind, train reason like a muscle. Integrity means thinking clearly even when it hurts. Philosophically, it's rational heroism, clarity as morality. Relativism, the mind is its own universe. Relativism argues there is no absolute truth, only perspectives filtered through culture and experience. To master your thinking, acknowledge your lens, then expand it. Clarity comes not from certainty, but from humility. Philosophically, it's freedom through awareness. The wise thinker doubts everything, even their own bias. Quantum mind theory, thoughts as observers. Borrowed from interpretations of quantum mechanics, this idea claims that observation shapes reality. Your thoughts are not passive. They collapse possibilities into outcomes. To master your thinking, practice intentional observation. See what you want to grow, ignore what you want to die. Philosophically, it reframes focus as a creative act, not a reaction. Simulation realism. You are the player and the code. If life is a simulation, your thoughts are input commands. To master your mind, stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance and start debugging your reactions. Each belief alters how the program renders your world. This perspective makes mindfulness feel like system maintenance, calm as control, emotion as code. Emotional stoichiometry, balancing your internal chemicals. This practical offshoot of biophilosophy sees every emotion as a chemical equation you can rebalance. To master your thoughts, learn which inputs, sleep, food, social warmth, truth, produce clarity instead of chaos. It's the fusion of Stoicism and neuroscience. Control comes from chemistry literacy. You don't fight emotion, you reformulate it. Archetypal thinking, seeing through the myth. Every recurring thought mirrors an archetype, the victim, the warrior, the sage. To master your thoughts, label them as characters in your internal mythology. You stop being consumed by fear once you recognize it's just the child seeking protection. Philosophically, this turns psychology into narrative authorship. Dream realism, life as a shared lucid dream. A fusion of Buddhist idealism and Jungian thought. The world is mental, a co-created projection. To master your mind, treat waking life like a lucid dream. Observe, don't over-identify, and reshape meaning. Reality reacts to belief as dreams do to awareness. It's a psychology of detachment without apathy. Cognitive Aikido, mental redirection. Instead of resistance modeled after the martial art Aikido, this philosophy teaches redirecting thoughts instead of fighting them. If an anxious thought strikes, guide it somewhere else. What can I do right now? You conserve energy by using the mind's force against itself. Philosophically, mastery is fluidity, not control. Meme realism, thought as cultural virus. In the age of ideas, your mind is a host for memes, units of thought competing for attention. To master your thoughts, become your own curator. Delete memes that breed resentment or helplessness. Keep the ones that produce discipline or curiosity. The wise thinker is a mental gatekeeper, not a content consumer. Temporal awareness, thinking in time layers. Every emotion belongs to a time frame. Regret, past; anxiety, future; contentment, present. To master your thoughts, identify what time your mind is trapped in. Anchor your consciousness to now, the only time that can be acted upon. Philosophically, presence is time literacy. Paracosmic reasoning, building internal worlds. Creative thinkers survive chaos by mentally constructing inner worlds. Paracosms, where ideas mature safely. To master your thoughts, give imagination a playground so it doesn't hijack your reality. It's a form of psychological containment. Dream, but don't drown. The greatest thinkers live part-time in worlds of their own design. The observer mind. You are not the thought. The cornerstone of modern mindfulness, there's a gap between awareness and thought. To master your mind, identify with the witness, not the chatter. Over time, the ego's volume fades. What's left is clarity. Philosophically, this is freedom through detachment, not denial. Peterson rules for life. Think through order and chaos. Jordan, Peterson's framework. The mind alternates between chaos, newness, and order, routine. To master it, walk the line between both. Question your assumptions, but anchor your thoughts in responsibility. Structure gives clarity, curiosity gives growth. The balance of the two gives wisdom. New Age, the observer, mind. New Age thought teaches that your thoughts are not you, but energy passing through you. Mastering your thinking means becoming the observer, not the participant, noticing every thought without judgment until it loses its power. When you learn to watch the storm, you stop being carried by it. The modern term for this state is metacognition, awareness of awareness. Panpsychism, the participatory mind. Panpsychists see consciousness as the fabric of reality, not something you have, but something you are part of. To master your thinking is to align it with this truth. Every thought reverberates in the cosmos. Think with care, because your mind is not private. It's a thread in the great mental web of being. The law of assumption, thought as reality's script. Neville Goddard's law of assumption teaches that what you assume to be true becomes your lived experience. To master your mind, act as though your desired outcome already exists, not through fantasy, but disciplined imagination. Over time, your subconscious accepts the new truth, and your external life begins to reflect it. It's not magic, it's neural patterning through belief rehearsal. Stoic minimalism, the mental declutter. Modern Stoicism meets minimalism in this fusion. What you own and what you think should serve you, not enslave you. To master your thoughts, eliminate the unnecessary ones. Guilt over the past, worry about others, imagined outcomes. The Stoic minimalist's mind is clean, focused, and free from cognitive noise. Peace, in this view, is a function of mental organization. Shadow work, meeting the monster. Jung's legacy for the modern psyche: every thought you suppress grows teeth. To master your mind, you must face the parts you hide: jealousy, pettiness, rage, shame. By confronting them, you integrate their power and stop projecting them onto others. Unacknowledged shadows control you. Integrated ones empower you. Nihilistic optimism, the freedom of "it doesn't matter." Nihilism says nothing matters. Optimism says that's good news. To master your thoughts, stop demanding that life have meaning. Create it. This philosophy teaches emotional resilience. If the universe is indifferent, your response becomes your art. True mastery comes from smiling into the void. Existential productivity, doing as meaning-making. Influenced by Camus and Sartre, but reframed for the hustle era. The act of doing gives structure to chaos. When overwhelmed by thought, act. Your mind is not a philosopher's cage, but an engine. Movement burns off anxiety. Clarity comes not before action, but through it. Rational spirituality, faith in pattern recognition. For the secular mystic, divinity is the logic of the universe seen clearly. To master your thoughts, train your intellect to sense the divine in cause and effect. Replace superstition with observation. The deeper you look, the more awe emerges. Rational spirituality heals the split between faith and reason. Digital asceticism, the modern monk mindset. In the internet age, the rarest skill is uninterrupted thought. Digital asceticism is not about deleting technology, but mastering attention, treating every scroll as a spiritual tax. Train your brain to crave silence more than stimulation. Your inner world becomes sharper when your outer feed quiets down. Paradox philosophy, thinking in contradictions. This mindset trains the brain to hold opposites without collapsing: ambition and surrender, logic and mystery. To master your thoughts, stop forcing resolution where duality is required. The wisest thinkers learn to breathe between truths. It's not confusion, it's higher order cognition, meaning minimalism, small purpose, big peace. Forget, find your purpose. That's too heavy a burden for a finite mind. Meaning minimalism says, find one small, repeatable act that makes life bearable, and repeat it. To master your thoughts, anchor them to simplicity. Peace hides in routine, not revelation. The algorithmic mind, training. Your inner feed. Your brain is a feed. Thoughts with attention go viral. To master your mind, stop doom scrolling your own head. Unfollow old thought patterns. Subscribe to new ones through conscious repetition. What you rehearse internally becomes the algorithm of your personality. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. The mind as a laboratory. Born in Victorian England, the Golden Dawn fused Kabbalah, alchemy, and ritual magic. They believed the mind could create reality through symbols. That thought was a wand, and the universe, clay. Through meditation, visualization, and initiation, they sought to turn imagination into power and knowledge into transformation. Rosicrucianism, the inner temple. The Rosicrucians saw the world as a grand illusion, concealing divine geometry. To them, mastery of the mind was architectural, building a cathedral within consciousness. Each act of contemplation laid a stone, each moral victory raised a spire. Their mystery was simple yet profound. To rebuild Eden, one must first reconstruct the soul. Alchemy of the mind, transmuting thought. Itself, alchemists were never really turning lead to gold. The real work was inner. They believed the human mind could purify itself the same way A furnace refines metal through suffering, insight, and repetition. Every failure in thought was dross to be burned away until only pure, illuminated consciousness remained. Theosophy, blending science and spirit. Founded by Helena Blavatsky in the late 19th century, Theosophy aimed to reconcile Eastern mysticism with Western rationalism. They taught that human thought evolves over ages, mirroring cosmic cycles. To master thought meant transcending cultural ego, realizing every idea is a fragment of a single, universal mind. Transcendentalism, thought as divine reflection. Emerson, Thoreau, and their circle saw the human mind as a mirror of the oversoul, a fragment of divine reason. Mastery came through solitude, simplicity, and communion with nature. Every clear thought was not yours, but God's voice passing through you. Anthroposophism, thinking as spiritual perception. Rudolf Steiner saw thought not as brain activity, but as spiritual sight. To him, thinking could become a form of clairvoyance when purified by discipline and moral clarity. The goal was not to escape the world, but to see it truly, as spirit made visible. Freudian philosophy, question the first thought. Freud taught that most of your thoughts aren't yours. They're echoes of repressed fears and desires. To master your thinking, you must interrogate your impulses. When an idea arises, ask, what feeling is this thought protecting? Awareness breaks compulsion. The Skinner model, reprogram the triggers. Your mind is a loop of stimulus and response. B.F. Skinner's insight. Change the environment, and you change the thought. Notice what situations trigger self-doubt, laziness, or anxiety, and alter the inputs. The mind is obedient to its conditioning. Mastery means writing your own program. Frankl reasoning. Think through suffering, not around it. Viktor Frankl taught that every painful thought is a question. What meaning can I extract from this? Instead of fighting negative thinking, transform it into purpose. Train your mind to find why rather than why me. When thought meets meaning, despair dissolves. Nietzschean philosophy, build your own thought architecture. Nietzsche warned that inherited morality infects our thoughts. To master them, destroy borrowed beliefs and create new ones. Ask, who benefits from me thinking this way? And what would I believe if I were truly free? Thinking becomes mastery when it's an act of creation, not imitation. Foucault thought, audit your language. Foucault revealed that language is a cage built by power. The words you think in determine what you can imagine. To master thought, question your vocabulary. Who defined success, sin, or normal for you? Freedom begins when you think beyond the grammar of your upbringing. Sartre philosophy, choose your thoughts like you choose clothes. Sartre said you are not your thoughts, you are the chooser of them. Every belief is a garment you put on to face reality. To master thinking, recognize choice where you assume fate. Every time you say, that's just how I am, you surrender authorship of your mind. Fromm reasoning, think without the crowd. Erich Fromm noticed that conformity disguises itself as sanity. To master your thinking, detach from the mental noise of the group. Practice solitude, not as withdrawal, but recalibration. Independent thought is lonely at first, but peace follows when you stop outsourcing your beliefs. Chaos magic, belief as a weapon. Chaos magic teaches that belief itself is the most powerful tool in the universe. To master your thinking, you must learn to believe and disbelieve at will, to treat ideas like software you install and uninstall. Magicians shift reality by altering their internal narratives through sigils, rituals, and intense focus. Philosophically, it's the postmodern alchemy of the mind. Truth doesn't matter, effectiveness does. Thought becomes the experiment. You are both scientist and subject. Biocentrism. The universe is in your head. Biocentrism, championed by Robert Lanza, claims that life and consciousness create the universe, not the other way around. Matter exists because it is observed. Your awareness shapes time, space, even death. To master your mind, you must treat perception as sacred. Every moment of attention literally constructs your reality. Philosophically, it's the dethroning of physics by consciousness, an elegant inversion of science itself, where the observer is God in miniature. Christian Science, Healing by Correct Thought, founded by Mary Baker. Eddie, Christian Science teaches that all illness is mental, matter is illusion, and right thinking restores harmony with God's perfection. To master your thoughts is to reclaim dominion over the false world of pain, fear, and death. Through disciplined prayer and affirmation, believers reprogram their consciousness toward divine truth. Philosophically, it's radical idealism with moral stakes. Sin and sickness are both errors of perception. Correct the thought, and the body obeys. Islam, discipline as freedom. In Islam, the mind is a battlefield where nafs, the lower self, and iman, faith, wage war. To master your thinking, you must train it toward submission, not as slavery, but as alignment with divine order. Prayer, fasting, and mindfulness function as neurological resets, each act reminding the believer that thoughts are not the master, only the mirror. Philosophically, Islam offers serenity through submission. True mental mastery comes not from control, but from remembering who truly rules your mind, God, not ego. Hellenic paganism, order through thought and beauty. The Greeks saw Nous mind as the divine spark ordering the cosmos. Mastering thought meant aligning it with harmony. Logic, art, and virtue all train the mind toward divine symmetry. The Stoics took this further. Thought governs fate, so serenity begins in disciplined reasoning. Philosophically, it's enlightenment through aesthetic order, the mind as both sculptor and sculpture. Maximalism, the overwhelmed mind as art. Maximalism, in philosophy and aesthetics, is the revolt against minimalism, the belief that chaos, color, and excess reveal deeper truth. To master your thoughts here means not trimming them, but embracing the flood. You don't seek calm, you orchestrate the noise until it becomes music. It's the rejection of purity culture in all forms, the admission that life's mental clutter is meaning, not the obstacle to it. It trains the thinker to survive overstimulation by transforming it into beauty, madness harnessed as motion. Humorism, the philosophy of the laughing mind. Humor reveals paradoxes that logic can't fix. It forces the mind to accept contradiction joyfully. To master your thinking under this philosophy, you learn to laugh at the ego, to treat despair as cosmic irony rather than failure. Philosophically, it's enlightenment through absurdity. By seeing everything as both tragic and funny, you dissolve the tyranny of seriousness and reclaim psychological freedom. Laughter becomes meditation. Take delight in the ridiculous.